All right, everybody, we're live on Squid's World, episode 3. Let me know if you have any odd TikTok. Hey, my clock still says 8 o'clock, buddy. Look, I got you on stream right here. 2000. I don't know about your clock, my man, but you're right. I'm trying to stay on time. I'm trying to keep this professional, on time. It's funny. Anyway, this is Squid's World episode 3. So today I just want to showcase some of my updates that I made to Bible app, and I am down to serious business here. I want to talk about the stream a little bit. I'll probably start off talking about the stream, and then play Squad. Maybe. No, there's no chance. There's no chance I'm going to play Tarkov, but there is a chance I'm going to play Squad. I'm going to be in there like swimwear. Anyway, I'm going to talk about the stream, and I do think I'm going to focus a little bit more on the projects for a while and less on games. It's funny that you would bring up Play Squad or Tarkov. Honestly, maybe, but not tonight. Tonight's all Squid's World projects today, so... But I was thinking about Squad and Tarkov, and I talked about this in my other stream, is that Squad and Tarkov have the opposite problems. Squad expects the community to host the servers, and it would be better if Squad hosted the servers for the game. Tarkov expects them to be able to host all the servers, and it would be better for the community if the community could host the Tarkov servers. So it's ironic. I was thinking about that. It's just ironic. But anyway, for now, I am going to focus on doing Squid's World content primarily. And then, just because there's so many projects I need to wrap up and so much work to do, and getting late at night, it starts to get a little rough to play the games. So what I do think I'm going to do is I'm going to probably make some dedicated streams to play games. Like Squad, Terraria. Terraria is a good game. Really good game. So, but what I'm going to do instead is just work on Squid's World project. So let me start off. I am going to talk about the new Bible app. So let me switch to my share screen here. So this is, I did a reskin on Bible app. I'm very stoked about this new skin. I made it look cool. At least I hope it looks cool. I gotta make this smaller here because this overlay is ruining it. I just have a couple things I need to work on right here. Like number one, I do realize that there's a contrast issue with this icon now that I've done this reskin. And then, yeah, it should make this an app. So the thing about making this an app here, Gouda, is I think it should be pretty easy. And at some point, I am going to do that as part of my Squid's World. So what I need to do in order to make this an app, really, at the end of the day, is I just need to make a website. Like I need to make an app that is just a web browser, and all it does is load my website. And I think I can do that on Android and iOS. I've never done it before, but I know that it can be done, and I know that that's probably the easiest approach to getting that accomplished. So I do want to do that. That is something that is in my plans. So, but right now, as far as finishing this, I do think there's a little bit of a bug. So first off, I'm going to switch this to the mobile responsive edition here to kind of show kind of this is really intended to be used on a phone. I did make it work on desktop, but I did some changes to it. So namely is when you click this magnifying glass here, and I need to move this thing over. Hold on to fix this. I need to take this magnifying glass here. When you click it, it actually, first off, the search is closer to where your thumb is, so it's easier to use it. And then also, it just automatically opens up the search so you can start typing. And I think that's a big UI upgrade for this app. And then I also gave some context to say like, okay, well, here's what you can do and here's what you can put in to the app. So that's kind of what I was thinking, like here's the type of searches, because I don't know if everybody knows what types of searches they can do in this, and that is like the whole point of this app. So and the other thing is, so I called this settings instead of profile, which didn't make any sense. So yeah, there's a couple other little graphical bugs and things, but my objective right now is to just get this project to a stopping point so that I can make Space Game 1.0. I feel like I've already got 1.0 Bible app done, so I want to do Space Game 1.0, and that's what today's stream is going to all be about. I don't know if I'm going to be getting into any code for Space Game in this episode, but maybe next episode we'll get into some Space Game code. But I do think that Bible app is finally to a point where it is. I think Bible app is finally to a point where it's usable. So, yeah, that'll be the conclusion of everything I have to say about Bible app today. So, Space Game. Yay, Space Game. All right, so for those that don't know, Space Game is a storytelling game. This is primary focus, and I'll probably need these headphones for something. So Space Game is a storytelling experience for me. The primary purpose of Space Game, like, I want to make the coolest program I could possibly make. It's not about that. It's about making a simple game that fits into the paradigm of what kind of coding I know how to do, and then doesn't really make me focus too hard on crazy graphics or physics or anything like that, to make the simplest possible game that's still interesting. So it's more of like a storytelling mechanism than it is like a game of skill. It's more of like a decision-based type of experience. That's the idea. That's what I'm going for here. And so I want to explore, as I'm doing Space Game, I want to explore, and let me put in here Space Game. It should be definitely a tag on the stream here. Update my stream. There we go. 'Cause that's really what we're talking about right now. Okay, so I really want Space Game to be an exercise for me in like character development, storytelling, building a universe, a fictional universe, building characters with stories, factions, interactions, and those type of things that make this game a game that kind of is immersive. And then I want to take, what's up, ADHD? It's good to have you here. Space Game indeed. And then I want to have Space Game get into, once it's 1.0 complete, the next step for Space Game is I want to make it possible for people to generate their own experiences with Space Game. Because I don't remember who it was, but I was watching somebody else's stream the other day, and they were saying that they really like Game Maker Studio, and they liked RPG Maker and other games where the game allows you to create your own experience in the game. And so that was kind of the vision I had for Space Game, as like a one player game. And instead of going down that road of trying to make Space Game a multiplayer game, or to make Space Game like a really intense, like skill based game, I wanted to build on Space Game so that you could create your own characters, create your own sprites, create your own maps, create your own battle interactions, and sort of build on what Space Game can do right now and the way that Space Game actually works. And so I might show a little bit of that, but I don't think I'll be doing a lot of coding today on it, because today I think I'm going to be trying to talk through the lore, trying to talk through this, because right now everything you see on this website is probably not up to date and not where it really needs to be. And that's kind of where hopefully I can get some feedback from some people on Twitch. I would love that. And speaking of feedback, I do have some updates about Discord here as far as feedback is concerned. So I'm going to open up my Discord and basically get into kind of the Squid's World Discord. So there is a link on my stream that I need to go ahead and take ADHD's advice and make an actual clickable button on the stream. But there is a link, at least in the screen description, as well as on my website, on Twitch, on squidsworld.us. There's links, there's ways to get to it. But if you go on a Discord, one of the goals I have for my Discord is I want to actually post stuff to the Discord. So like the content that I make, or any kind of memes and stuff that I make, because sometimes I make memes, and so any kind of memes and things that are relevant to this niche of retro computing and games, coding and programming and computer nerd stuff, I want to post into this Discord and actually have this Discord be better than your average, like, I guess, your average, like, streamer's Discord that kind of is just stream announcements like, hey, I'm going live. Like, I know that's what I'm doing right now, but I want to post more memes and things. But I also want to use the Discord as an avenue for gathering feedback from people who are watching me develop my programs. And so one of the ways that I was going to work on doing that, for example, is if I have a project like Bible App or Space Game, where I would have this, these sort of the standard, we have like a bug reports news. So I really should post some news here in Space Game, really about that. So I'm going to have to take my own advice on this. Put the news that, yeah, we did the update on the interface. Hey, what's up, Crystal? It's good to have you here. I love space, hence to make the game. But anyway, as what I was saying is, like, when I'm doing these polls, I had initially made a poll. I don't think that that's going to work as well as I wanted. So instead, I came up with this idea for, I call it feature voting or whatever. So anytime I come up with an idea of a feature to put on there, or become aware of a feature that I could put into a project, I'll make a post here in this feature voting, and then I'll kind of start off the things. And if I put a squid emoji on it, that means that I am confirming. If it says squid reacted by Squid, it'll say that it means that I've committed to making this update into the app. So, and if there's something that's not on here, we can post it in suggestions. So I'm going to keep doing that on the Discord and probably blab about that every episode. Are the Pete's abilities endless? Well, I don't know what you mean by Pete's abilities. Um, is there going to be pizza in Space Game? I don't know at this time. Although I think that can be arranged. I'm sure it can. So, um, so about Space Game. So right, let's see what I wrote about this. I really need to evaluate this content. What is about Space Game? So actually, let me go in here and actually open. We'll close all this stuff here. Close this down. Go to Space Game, and so Space Game has like a website, index.php, and then there's lore.php. This is where I'll write the lore. So here's my content. I'll read about. So let's start with the about Space Game. So Space Game is an in development single player browser based storytelling. Thanks, Crystal. It is disclaimer on Space Game is that it is currently unplayable. So just a fair warning about that. But I appreciate that. I think it looks cool too. I want to make it look as cool as I can. It's an in development single player browser based storytelling adventure game from PromptWorks. See, this is dumb. So I'm not. There's no such thing as PromptWorks Lab. So that was the idea that there would be. That I was going to make a company or whatever, and it would be like PromptWorks Lab. But I realized like that doesn't make sense. Like I'm just a guy. I'm not a company, right? So I'm just the guy. Just the guy. Squid's World. From PromptWorks. Boop. Where you are tasked with saving the galaxy from rogue AI robots determined to destroy all organic life. Okay, so there has to be like a reason that you're in space playing a game. You can't just be doing it for no reason. And so I guess rogue AI robots determined to destroy all organic life is a possible enemy that we might run into. And really, I know that there's a few things about the story of Space Game that I know are set in stone, and there's a lot of details that are just absolutely like made up. So where I'm at right now is I'm just taking Space Game and trying to make this universal interface. And let me open that in another tab here. All this loudness that happens when you first load in. So the decision I made when I was making Space Game was that I wanted to do all of the UI first and make the basic gameplay mechanics first. And it's not done. It's like 80% done. But all of that has to be done before I can build in any story. And let me make this actually like, let me make my web browser window fit. And I need to do a better job with my OBS. I might even like just completely undo all this OBS craziness. So yeah, so here's the, and then gotta get it right there. Okay. All right. So the idea was to get all of the UI complete before I did any work on the story or building out the content of the game. And I feel like that's a problem I ran into with other game development projects I've worked on over this recent years, getting into Godot games, and doing those kind of things. Because the problem I would run into would be that I would start coding in like levels and stuff, and then I would realize that I'm not happy with the base mechanics in my engine, in my game. Like I'm just not happy with that. And I'd be like, oh, I've already invested all this into it. So this time I was like, no, I'm going to make the interface, and I'm not going to worry about physics, and I'm not going to do all that stuff. I'm not going to use an engine. I'm just going to make it the graphics and all the user interface 100% HTML. So a lot of this is actually HTML. Kind of some things are HTML that probably shouldn't be HTML. So like if I go in here and like look at this ship here, so this is all just HTML divs with border radiuses. So like the ship forward hull is just a div with a big border radius. And so I've done that with a lot of different elements of the game. For example, like this general interface is just HTML. Even this, like the helm is just a border radius to create a circle. But not all shapes are possible to create with just border radius. So there are graphics involved. I wanted to do like a minimalist graphics approach, programmer art, but then like lean into it. And so that being said, so the basic gameplay mechanics in this game are going to be you have this radar where I can move around and explore the galaxy. And each radar cell is going to be of a different type of a tile. And for example, like if I click on this cell here, it'll give me the inspector text here. So it says like, hey, that's a water planet. There's no human civilization, but it's entirely possible that life might exist on this planet. So you go to the planet, and as you move around in the world, you go onto these tiles. When you land on one of the tiles, it will have a chance of triggering an event. And so that's the whole system, is this dialogue system within the game. So once you go into the dialogue, you have one of these panes here, which is a view pane. So it's kind of like your on-screen viewer. And you start like a Pokemon battle type of thing, where you have a guy pop up, and all of this kind of like interaction happens through the interface in this way. So the purpose of this stream is not to really get into this game very much. And by the time I get into this, and I've been working on this project for maybe, I don't know, over a year now, off and on. It all started really simple, and it kind of started to go out of hand. There was a couple nights where I really made a lot of progress, like over a year ago. And then maybe like a few months ago, I really dug into it, and then kind of worked on some other projects. And so this hasn't been on the top of my priority list here. And really only the time I stream once a week, 8 to 11, is kind of when I make progress on any of my projects at all. So I don't necessarily always work on it, but I want to get into this. Today, I'm not going to work on this actual game code so much. But what I am going to do is work on the lore and the planning for kind of the story, to kind of get myself inspired and hyped up about it again, and kind of get back into it. With Bible app being at its 1.0, that's kind of where I'm at mentally. So I'm going to get into it. So looking in here, I'm looking at this idea of like the rogue AI robots determined to destroy all organic life. So, okay, I know there's going to be rogue AI robots in the game, and I know that their mission is going to be to destroy all organic life in the galaxy. But what I don't know is, I don't know if that's going to be the main focus and the main enemy in this game. That's kind of the key, the main purpose. Now there's going to be a main purpose. The original game is going to have like a one central mission that is the objective of the game, and I want to make the game reasonably balanced to where you can fail at that if you don't play well, and you can succeed at that if you do play well. And there's sort of like enough content to that in the course of completing that mission, you get a good experience and hear a kind of a cool story. That's the goal. Central to this goal, or central to the story, is this concept of Siberia 1. Now, Siberia 1 is this concept that I've worked on with Gouda for years. Honestly, I think this idea is like 3 years old. Siberia 1 is basically like a Unix supercomputer in the core of the galaxy on basically what is Earth or whatever. I don't know if it would be necessarily Earth, but it's in the center of the galaxy, or in the most populous area, the old part of the galaxy. There is this this place, is this computer called Siberia 1 that's running on that. And Siberia 1 is a mainframe system that is used by pretty much every civilization and every technologically advanced species within the entire galaxy. And so the way it all started, this is another aspect of the story that is set in stone, is the way that it all started is that there was a time traveler who went back in time and basically introduced computers and artificial intelligence into the world, maybe around the Industrial Revolution, but intentionally dumbed it down in a way to keep it like stuck in the 80s, but to keep people dependent on him in order to take over the world. So he's like a mad scientist that went back in time to take over the world by basically manipulating people and making them dependent on his computer systems that he controlled. And that's kind of the start of this. But this is like hundreds of years into the future from that event, when basically that guy's dead and gone. And then and since then there have been factions that have popped up and different people who use the computer, and so it's like a derelict computer. The Unix computer, this Unix like computer, is derelict. It's abandoned. There's parts of it, there's accounts that are shut down, there's programs that run that can never be edited. There's our user accounts that you can get into, and different things can happen based on what's happened throughout history, where different people have encountered the usernames and passwords to different accounts. And so those are the types of stories I want to bake in, and everything in the game is just, it centers around this concept of the Siberia 1 supercomputer, which is the core of civilization, even though it's mostly inaccessible to most people because they built so many different systems. So in this world, there's lots of different computers that exist, but this concept of having a computer, like I guess like in our world today, we've come to the point where we now have everyone at their desk has their own computer, or in their pocket they have a cell phone. And yes, there's a cloud and all that stuff is starting to come back, into an idea of this like shared computing environment. But in this universe, all of the computers throughout the galaxy are for the most part just dumb terminals that connect to Siberia 1, the only actual functional computer in the galaxy. But this computer is so powerful that it's basically it's the size of a planet. It like takes up a planet, and it's very well guarded by robots that protect it. It has a very stable defense network, and most of civilization throughout the galaxy is very much in sort of like a dark ages kind of a time period. And so that's kind of what's going on in the world. This is all part of a larger fictional universe, which we would call the Siberia fictional universe. And I wanted to, make some other games that are kind of surrounding this concept of the Siberia universe, but this is the first one that's ever started to come close to getting done. So that's kind of why it says here, this game is set in the Siberia fictional universe, inspired by AI and retro computers. You can learn more about the story of Space Game on the lore page, and that's what we're going to get into a little bit. It says, in the game, you're the captain of a spaceship, and the game interface is intended to simulate your connection to the ship's systems through a retro computer terminal. So again, like when you're looking at Space Game and you're actually looking at this interface, the idea is I want to create this picture in your mind as a user that you're like in a little submarine in space, like deep space. And you don't have windows, you can't really look out. You just have this tiny little interface that controls it. It's kind of like this concept of like Star Trek Bridge Command or whatever, except it's not actually multiplayer, right? It's a single player. So you're controlling all aspects of your ship through this interface. So that's what that means, is that you're the captain of a spaceship, and the interface is intended to simulate your connection to the ship system through a retro computer terminal. You can control the ship entirely with your keyboard, but some mouse buttons exist for quality of life. So that's a thing that I want to be in the final release. And right now, this is all messed up. But I'm probably going to rethink the way that all these key commands work. But I want this game to be played entirely with both hands on the keyboard, home row, like to play the entire game without ever using your mouse. But I'm going to program it first to work with your mouse as well. So that's kind of going to be a tricky aspect of programming this game, for sure. There's no doubt about that. So you can control the ship entirely with your keyboard, but some mouse. Okay, you learn more about the game controls on the controls page, which I'll worry about that a lot later. Modern screen resolution. Okay, so here's the inspiration. Let's see if this paragraph here kind of matches with what I was saying a minute ago. Space Game is inspired by the nostalgia that is the World Wide Web in the mid-2000s. I guess that's true. I'm gonna put in here. That's not exactly true. So, a space game is inspired by the nostalgia from the World Wide Web in the mid 2000s, as well as the nostalgia from uh what would you call this, shared computing, multi user computing of the 70s and 80s. It's really inspired by Unix. Now, I guess the best way to put that would be that the space games, space game as a game is inspired by the nostalgia of the World Wide Web from the mid 2000s. Space games lore is um, inspired by Unix multi-user computing. So that's kind of the idea. What do you think Pizzini is doing right now? Well, he's probably conspiring to form another company in the 1930s at a circus somewhere. I don't know. I don't know. I just Pizzini. The thing about Pizzini is he's a fraud. And not to get on a conspiracy rampage here, but look, at least Ronald McDonald can be traced to the history of McDonald's. Like, look, I'm about to tell you, not to get sidetracked here, not to get political or anything, but let's find out what's the scoop with Ronald McDonald. Get the scoop on Ronald McDonald real quick. Sidetrack. Look at this guy. That's Ronald McDonald. He's been around since 1963, right? All right, let's see what we can find about C.C. Pizzini. Doesn't even exist on Wikipedia. All right, maybe I should spell his name right. Maybe. I don't know if it is spelled that. So there's no such guy. There's never been such a guy. So it's not even... I digress. Okay? I digress. I now understand the endless pizza abilities, and I know who Crystal Tycho is too. That's great. That's wonderful. I see where we're going with this. You're trying to trigger my CC Pizzini conspiracy theory here. It's okay though. It's okay. I just go to get my delicious taco pizza. Then I see a card that suggests that this guy invented this company 100 years ago, and I'm like, I don't know about that. I don't know about that. Anyway. All right, so let's see here. So I also put this blurb here too, that Space Game is meant to be a project that strikes a balance between AI generated content and human generated content to create a fun experience for the player. It's an experiment in incorporating AI generated content into a web project. I think that's still true, but I think that's less relevant than it was at the time I started this. I think AI has blown up so much that I don't know if anybody really cares to even think about that. But I really do. Like, for example, this guy right here, this little dude, my little iBot dude, right? So Gouda drew that. Gouda made this iBot, and it is the coolest, like, sci-fi character I've seen in a long time. He's like he's cheesing, like he's just like, yeah, yeah. He's like a bad guy, but he's like stoked about it, and I like that character. But that was made by a human. That was made by Gouda. I watched him make that. It was awesome. He let me use it for the game. It's gonna be a character in this game for sure. It's gonna be one of the droids that like protects Siberia 1 mega computer, so there is that. But there's also some elements in here like this, like Seth guy. Like this is Chat GPT art. This background right here is a Chat GPT Dolly art. The viewports are Dolly arts. But the I think that I'm gonna do the radar as like handmade pixel art. So I'm going to do some pixel art for some things, and I'm going to do some things for other things. But really, AI has helped me to build this project faster, solve a lot of problems. I've been able to use AI to help me to write code for this project as well as to generate images for this project. But I really want to see how much of a project I can make where like the project still has like the human touch. And I think there always has to be the human touch with anything you do with AI, because if you just let the AI take over and you just say, if you outsource it to the AI, it's going to be garbage. It's really like, it's, the thing is, it's, if you use AI just to replace yourself to do something for you out of laziness, then the AI will do that thing to the best of its ability, whether it can or not. And that remains to be seen. But that is one thing. But if you always keep the AI at what I call the edge of your understanding, you keep the AI always at the edge of your capabilities, you want to make sure that it's pulling you with it. So that's the way I look at using AI for a project is, like, for example, like the AI to create this art right here. That is me just straight up outsourcing my AI. I'm never going to make a pixel art, like full size scale portrait like this. It's never going to happen. But I can definitely I can outsource that. I can accept the fact that I'm never going to make art at this level, because it doesn't matter. Like, yes, I could, if I sat down and really got into it. Yeah, I could get myself to that level with enough practice and training and whatever, but I'm not going to. I have decided not to. That is not where I'm going to move. Now, little things, little art, maybe even something as complicated as this little guy right here, I might make one day. But a full-size, like, art, no, I'm not going to do that. So when I generate art, it's not bringing me forward with it. But when I generate code, I always want to make sure that I'm generating code that's right at the edge. Like, I need you to solve this problem I can't solve. Or if I already know how to solve that problem, then I will tell the AI to solve that, to basically to do it for me, because I don't have time for this right now. I've done it a million times. I know what I want, and I need you to create this little piece, and then I go and plug it into my program. But the minute I decide to tell AI, like, hey man, make a space game for me, it's over. I don't think that I'm gonna have a lot of success with just outsourcing my entire project to AI. But if you take little pieces and you're the one who's the mastermind who's guiding the AI to build something, then I think the AI can help you. And so this has really been an exercise in that, and that's going to continue throughout this project cycle. But just as far as just generating art, yeah, I mean, you always want to keep the AI right at your edge. I don't know how I got on this tangent. Oh yeah, because space game. So really, this page is fine. Space game is pretty much right. Now here's where I start to run into all these problems. The lore. Oh my goodness. None of this matters. None of this is real. It's all bogus. The lore is okay. So excuse me. The year is 2719. In the Milky Way galaxy, nearly a millennium after a time-traveling mad scientist named Dr. Shade. What kind of villain name is that? Dr. Shade? Like, I don't know. I need villain names. He could be anything. He could be CC. Maybe. That might be stealing. I don't know if I could get away with that. But that is a pretty villainous name. I don't know. So he's Dr. Shade for now, and we're going to stick with that. He arrived at the beginning of the Industrial Revolution with modern weapons and technology in a highly successful attempt to amass power and wealth, which, wait a minute, what happened here? Which ultimately led to the collapse of galactic civilization. I don't know if that sentence flows with me, because I don't know how you go from, you travel back in time to the Industrial Revolution and you cause the collapse of the galactic civilization. I feel like there's a lot missing from the middle of that sentence. So let's take a look at that sentence here. Here we go. The year is 2719 in the Milky Way galaxy, nearly a millennium after a time-traveling mad scientist named Dr. Shade arrived at the um, traveled really yeah, to the beginning of the Industrial Revolution um with modern technology and weapons. I feel like technology, yeah. Also, I was thinking about this too. Like, there's always this idea that you could time travel back in time, and if you had like modern weapons, that you could like take over the whole world in the old days. And there's like a couple problems with that concept. Like number one, like the old world sucked, so I don't know why you'd want to take it over. And number two is if you were so powerful that like you had like if you went back in time and you had like before like even guns were invented and you had like a machine gun, I feel like you would be seen as such a threat that you would be killed by somebody, certainly. There's no way, it's not even possible. You can't go back in time and take over the world by bringing fancy technology. I think people would basically be like, that guy's a wizard, kill him, and you'd be done. But we're going to assume that this guy went back in time and he brought modern technology and maybe was able to kind of, I don't know, Palpatine his way into the emperorship. And that's kind of the thing. And this is going to be one of those things where I have to have unanswered questions, and maybe as I write this lore document out, I need to keep this private whenever I start to really publish this game, or at least keep it to the stream. I don't know, some people will find it, but not really advertise it so much, or not really like push the lore of the game too much on people, because I'm afraid that if I try to answer all the questions about the Siberian universe, obviously I'm not going to answer them all in the game. There has to be some kind of mystery to it, I suppose. That's not the only way I can think of it. It has to be like some kind of mystery to this game. And if I but I do need to flesh out the general idea. I have to figure out kind of where I'm going with this and where this world, because otherwise it won't make sense in the end. So that is important. It is important to figure this lore out, but it's not going to all be in Space Game. Just the part that's going on right now is going to be in Space Game. The part where this guy goes back in time and takes over the world, I feel like that's going to be in a prequel game. And if that game ever comes out, if I ever finish that game, that's going to be way later. That's because I'm going to make this game first. Then I'm going to make Siberia 1 after this. That'll be the next Siberia game that I'm going to work on making. That's a totally different game. It's called Siberia 1. And that game is actually like where you're actually living like during the time of the downfall of the civilization. So this guy goes back in time. He takes over the world using modern technology to take over the world and manipulate everybody. And then whenever that civilization falls apart, like right after the fall, that's when Siberia 1 is. That's like within 100 years of the actual collapse of galactic civilization is this other game. And that game is going to be like a terminal command line only game of sort of like social deduction game kind of deal. Totally different kind of game. Similar to Space Game, but totally different entirely. And so those two games have to be made first before I can even think about making a game that goes back as far as to like when this actually happens. And I think that one will probably be, if I ever make a game like that, it'll be more of an action game, like one where you're like, probably, if I had to say, I would want to make it like Robotron 9000. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of Robotron 9000, but I'll just throw some up real quick, just so I can kind of bring that up. No, it's not Robotron 9000. Is there a Robotron? I don't know. I guess I'm just being stupid here. Been looking at a lot of Star Wars videos. All right. Yeah, so this game right here. So you just run around and shoot in random directions while all these robots try to get you, and then you try to save as many of these people as you possibly can, or whatever. So I'd want to make a game that's a lot like this one, and that might be kind of the way that I go with the very first Siberia. And I think with those three games, I should be able to build enough of the story out into the games um, in a good order. But getting ahead of myself here. Really need to flesh this out about like how. So how does this guy, Dr. Shade, how does he go with modern technology? Well, I'll just say he didn't really bring weapons. He took over the modern technology and used it to manipulate society, and in an attempt to amass power and wealth. Man, this is a really long sentence. Time to clean up this sentence, right? So the year is 2719 in the Milky Way galaxy. It's been nearly a millennium since a time-traveling mad scientist named Dr. Shade traveled to the let's just give it a straight up year, right? Maybe it's not the beginning of the Industrial Revolution. Maybe it's like 1902. There you go. There's the year. Traveled to 190 to the year 1902 with modern technology and used it to manipulate and take over society. Okay, that's kind of the thing there. So there we go. Hey, Sleepy. Thanks for the follow. Good to have you here. So it's been over a millennium since this time-traveling mad scientist, Dr. Shade, traveled to the year 1902 with modern technology and used it to manipulate and take over society. So we get to the point now where Commander Guta's in control of this Siberian ship, a remnant of the Empire's fleet. But there's more to it, and this is kind of where I probably need to just restart this whole story. Let's read what I've even written about this to begin with here. So the origins and global Siberian Empire, which I was gonna name it PSY Siberian because everybody's already taken the name Siberia. I think I'm taking Siberia back because you know what? This is how I want it spelled, and I hope I don't get sued because this is really not that. I don't know. It's really not that unique of a concept, right? I mean, Siberia, just in line with all the other Squid World apps, it's named very poorly on purpose. So it's okay. It'll be fine. All right, sorry. Get back to it. So here we go with all this stuff here. This needs to be fixed. This needs to be changed to the 1902. I finally made that decision. It's 1902. Okay. I need to refresh this. With firearms, whatever. Combination of shrewd politics. This is all true. Shrewd politics, trickery, and brute force. He was able to take over the entire world in less than 10 years. I think we're going to stick to that. I think that's believable. Although he came to the... See, this sentence doesn't make any sense. Maybe I just move this paragraph up here. So, there we go. Kind of tell him that right there. So, through a combination of shrewd politics, trickery, and brute force, he was able to take over the entire world in less than 10 years. Let's see here. Have I seen or read Dune? No, actually, I've never seen or read Dune. Let's find out what that's about right now. What do I need to know about Dune? What's it about? I gotta go with the novel here. Dune is an epic sci-fi novel written by Frank Herbert, Top tier sci-fi. Yeah, true. Two separate serials. Distant future and a feudal interstellar society descended from terrestrial humans. A feudal interstellar society. Okay. In which various noble houses control planetary fiefs. Tells the story of young Paul Atreides. Atri. Yeah, yeah. I'm gonna have to look into it. I have to make sure that I don't like inadvertently steal an idea completely and just make something that's just like totally not unique. Also, so only source of melange. So melange, what is melange? Is this like a drug? Drug series most valuable commodity. Okay, it's definitely a drug. Definitely a drug. Melange is also necessary for space navigation. So what's the connection that like what made you think of Dune? Is there something that I'm doing that's like basically stolen from Dune by accident or something? Oh, okay. Because there's a galactic empire. Oh yeah, I was about to say like Star Wars. This guy takes over the galaxy. There's a king. No, you're not the first person actually to tell me about Dune. That I should definitely look into it. So I will do my best. I will do my due diligence to learn about Dune. You're right. I can probably take something from that. I've never read it. Really, I haven't consumed very much media at all in terms of reading books and watching shows, other than a few exceptions like Star Trek um, and Star Wars, of course. But that's just the movies. But Star Trek, I've really seen like all the series. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I can do the audiobook. Should I watch the movie or should I don't know. Is that a bad idea if I watch the movie first? Or is there a movie? I didn't even look that up. Read first. Always read. Okay. All right. I won't watch the movie till I've read it for you guys, just so I don't disappoint y'all. So let's see here. Put that on my list though to get into that. I need to change this. I need to change this here. Year 29. This doesn't. These two paragraphs don't flow. It's been nearly a millennium since the with modern used it and it. Uh, I guess I guess it does flow. That's fine. So then I can omit a lot of these details. I feel like so there has to come a point, I suppose, like he went back in time. It's been 1,000 years since then. I need to get through the lore. See if I can get through the general lore before I get maybe by 9 or maybe 9:15, so I can get into the characters and talk about some of the factions and stuff that I had in mind. Really don't have any graphics or any kind of stuff like that that talk about what I'm thinking in terms of that. Let's see here. But I did have an idea of some factions. So let's see here. Despite Dr. Shade's obvious reach for absolute power, he was generally loved and respected by the inhabitants of the world, as his creations brought many miracles to humanity. Diseases were healed through advanced medicine. Humans were free to pursue their creative interests as robots and artificial intelligence handled all of their work, and crime fell to an all-time low as advanced surveillance and drone-powered law enforcement became commonplace. That's exactly, I'm 100% behind that. Yeah, but a century after Dr. Shade's death, the ultra high tech society powered by the Siberia 1 supercomputer. So I need to fix the spelling here. You know what? Let me just do a Control H right now. Siberia to Siberia. Replace all. 7. Okay, you saved me some time there. But I messed it up here. Siberia 1 supercomputer would develop the capacity. Let's see, a century after Dr. Shade's death, the ultra high tech society powered by the Siberia 1 supercomputer. Now, I haven't mentioned the Siberia 1 supercomputer right at all in this. So that's what, yeah, so that's what I'm really doing. Yeah, so I've lost this right here. Yeah, so I think I need to, at the very top, I'll have to put something about the way that basically Commander Gouda sort of is in command of the ship. So I have to kind of, this is the summary talking about what's going on right now. So then I can talk about kind of the story. So through a combination of shrewd politics, trickery, and brute force, Dr. Shade, so to be named better than that eventually in the future, still taking applications for a better villain name than Dr. Shade. Sounds like a, I don't know, like a drug dealer or something that has a doctorate. Anyway, so this is the global Siberian Empire, and then there's the galactic Siberian Empire. So the global Siberian Empire, which we need to change the date here, around 1915 AD is when it kind of started here. And then we'll say here in a decade. So he took over the whole world within a decade. And then this part right here about the spite. So Dr. Shade's going to be dead by the time we get to the actual galactic empire. There's not going to be there's not going to be this evil guy anymore. He's already died of old age. So despite his obvious reach, right? Yeah. Let's see here. You know, there we go. Traveled from, enough to talk about when did he travel from. So like, let's say he traveled from 2030, which is far enough into the future where we can kind of imagine like what technology looks like at this time. And then, okay, go back to nights, go back like 100, you know, like 120 years, 130 years into the past. So that his advantage would be, the technology would be his advantage. So that way he's got enough technology he could have brought back with him to implement all of this drone powered law enforcement, AI surveillance, and those kind of different things. In commonplace. Empowered by Dr. Shade's innovation, society skyrocketed, and it all looked positive, I suppose, and the future looked bright. You know, the future looked bright. So a century after Dr. Shade, so I guess I don't really have to mention that Dr. Shade died or whatever. I haven't mentioned the computer yet. Oh my goodness. This is where I need to put in another paragraph right here to just bring up that supercomputer. So, at the core of the Siberian Empire's power was the Siberia 1 supercomputer, a massive computational engine that powered every transaction throughout all of society. Every robot, machine, vehicle, and organization was integrally dependent on this machine. Yeah. The future looks bright. So, a century after Dr. Shade passes away, I would say here, I could just put right here. We can always change this later. Dr. Shade lived to be old age and passed away peacefully, right? So there's our end of the Dr. Shade guy. And of course, I'm always open to suggestions here. I don't know. I'm just kind of winging it for this story here to try to make a story about how we got to this point with this deal. She lives old age. Let's see. A century after Dr. Shade's death, the ultra high-tech society, powered by the Siberia 1 supercomputer, would develop the capacity for high-speed space travel. Centuries ahead of any alien species technological development, the Siberian Empire easily grew to be more than just a planetary superpower. It became a galactic superpower. I could put that in italics. You know, and that's this to me. I mean, it makes sense. I mean, I don't know. You know, if there's aliens out there in a fictional universe, then if there's aliens out there in the fictional universe, who knows where they are in terms of the technological development of their civilization. I have no clue. But assuming all things constant, if you have a time traveling madman who comes back in time and decides to unleash technology on the world and use it to massively accelerate that civilization, then I would deduce that civilization would be basically accelerated over the rest of aliens within the whole universe. So in this fictional universe, we do have a situation where not only does this guy go back in time and take over the world with his superior technology and his shrewd politics, but he causes a situation that leads to this earthly civilization taking over the galaxy as a result of that. So even after his death, long after his death, this continues. And that's the idea that I kind of want to get across here. But that is what happens. So let's see what it says. For centuries, most advanced life forms across the galaxy relied on Siberia 1 for everything from communications to planning. As the computer system grew, it became to engulf the planet Earth, displacing human life as the system grew larger and larger to accommodate its purpose of processing all galactic information. So that's kind of what happens next with the space with this computer. And so it kind of pushes humans out of Earth. And that makes sense to me. I think I want to continue to go with that idea here. So, you know, by the year 2200, the Earth had become completely incapable of supporting life, and most life was settled elsewhere throughout the galaxy. So you have right now multiple different phenomenon that I kind of see kind of playing out in this universe here. So the first one is that the humans have been accelerated technologically into a situation where they're going to take over more of, you know, the humans are gonna be in this situation where they're gonna take over more and more of the galaxy and kind of become the rulers of the galaxy through this system. It's not really the humans that rule the galaxy in the end, though, because it ends up becoming Siberia 1 that really rules the galaxy. As you know, once this Dr. Shade character disappears, we can imagine his login disappears, and really it's just our dependence on this supercomputer. And so that's an idea that I kind of want to work through over time and try to get that kind of worked out. Another concept that I feel like we're going to see is you're going to have this concept of you have other species that have been receptive to the AI supercomputer, and then you have other species that have been very much anti, right? So, but it kind of creates this idea of this computer being there. I'm thinking about like it'll create this oppressive, sort of overwhelming, sort of, it's an unnatural way to be exposed to the technology. It's supposed to be gradual. Different alien civilizations don't just discover and come upon this concept of computing in the first place. Instead, it's forced on them by this galactic empire. And I think that would change the way that they psychologically really approach this idea of using technology in the first place. So I want to start working on some factions and things where they were like, no, we're not at all about this. And so they developed independently of computers and technology, but still achieved some advanced state. So I do want to flesh out kind of those kind of things. I was thinking about like some maybe like Greek society type societies. Then you also have the concept of people who have rejected this. In other words, so you have the people who've embraced it, and then you have the people who've rejected it outright from the beginning, and then you have the people who've embraced it and then turned to reject it. So those are really your three classes of different relationships people are going to have with this. So that's kind of what I'm thinking about here. I haven't written that down yet. But you're 2200. Earth had become, so this is all I'm, all about right. So I'm gonna put a note in here. I don't want to lose this thought. Whether or not this turns out to be like the note here, I don't know. But but as the empire grew, some alien civilizations embraced technology. Others rejected it outright, and others initially embraced it before rebelling against it. The other phenomenon that I really think might happen in a civilization or in any civilization or like alien civilization that's been like exposed to, like in Star Trek, they have this concept of the Prime Directive, which is like, we're not going to interfere with an alien civilization that hasn't yet developed yet to the same level of technology. I guess this idea is that until they've achieved light speed technology, we don't want to interfere with them, because if we do, like, go to like a tribal society and just be like, hey, by the way, computers and warp drives, then the people it'll like destroy their culture and all this stuff. And so there's going to be no concept of that in Siberia 1. It is 100% anti-Prime Directive. It's like there's no such thing as the Prime Directive. Kind of like in Star Trek, where there's no such thing. The Prime Directive is like more like a guideline than an actual rule to these people. So it's kind of like Picard Prime Directive, doesn't actually care about it. There's a whole movie about him not caring about the Prime Directive. But anyway, I digress. But so there's no Prime Directive whatsoever in this at all. There's literally the opposite, which is we're going to go out there and force this technology on everybody in the whole galaxy. And so that's what we did. And so there's some people who reject it. But I think that there's an inhibitory type of an impact there, right? So the fact that people have had technology forced on them and thrown in their face, they're either going to embrace it or they're going to reject it, but they're not going to develop it independently. So it's going to inhibit the ability of societies to actually create their own computer technology. Because one thing about Dr. Shade and the way that he did this, Dr. Shade, name in the air, not finalized, but one thing about the way that he approached taking over the world with technology is the Siberia 1 supercomputer was always something that was very locked down. And he intentionally designed it in such a way that everybody connected to it with dumb terminals, and all the technology that existed was really designed to interface with that from the jump. Always was that way. Never was any other way. Nobody really ever did learn how to create computers like it. And I think there's going to be some factions where they're kind of like these people who are kind of like more like a cult faction, not really like a empire faction, like a small like the Order of the Tinkerers or something like that, where these people have figured out how to make computers and are not dependent on Siberia 1, but that's going to be like a very slim minority of all the people here. Now, I want to keep it a little bit realistic in terms of like, yeah, I want you to be able to think, okay, I can see how the world would end up like this, but I also recognize that there's a little bit of like, I mean, it's fake. It's obvious fiction. It's not real. There's an aspect of that, so I have to kind of leave some things you're just gonna have to take my word for it, y'all. You know what I mean? I'm sorry about that. But yeah, that's kind of the idea I was coming up with, this inhibitory effect or whatever. So let's see here. And there's a okay, so I guess I should put a note there about that kind of a concept. Others initially braced it. Oh, what's going on here? Before ultimately, I need a word wrap. Where is it? View word wrap. Yeah, okay, thank you. Yeah. For rebelling against it. Others initially embraced it before ultimately rebelling against it. Okay. So I'm going to put in here, I'm going to say, because the Siberian Empire kept their supercomputer so locked down and all technology heavily dependent on it, very few people ever developed computing technology of their own. And so that's an idea that I kind of had. Only small factions, and then I'll also say anyone who did would violate imperial law. Only small criminal factions engaged in what I'm going to call independent computation. Independent computation. So, let's say here, it would violate federal imperial law on independent computation. And only small criminal factions engaged in the practice. Independent computation became associated with crime. I would also put a note in here about that crime was initially wiped out on Earth, but as the empire grew, it became increasingly difficult to keep tabs on crime. I will say, let's put a little note in here. While the while the Empire's um, while the Empire's law enforcement systems um, were highly effective, light speed transportation, or they're highly effective at the planetary level. Light speed transport, light speed transportation technology, light speed transportation um, severely hindered the Empire's ability to enforce laws throughout deep space, leading to. I'll just leave that. Leave it at that for now, because that's gonna. You need that for. We need that for talking about them locking down their supercomputer and all technology heavily dependent on it. Few people ever develop computing technology of their own. Anyone who did would violate imperial law and independent computation, and only small criminal factions engage in the practice. Independent computation became associated with criminality, and developed a poor connotation. I can always work on this later. So we get to the collapse of the Galactic Siberian Empire, and I'm really not sure at what point this really happens. It's at some point. At some point, this does happen where the Empire actually collapses, but I don't know if it's 500 years, 400 years. I mean, at what point? I mean, there has to be a certain amount of time that it takes to actually take over the whole galaxy. But I don't really know how long that really would be. So I'm going to go ahead and push it kind of far out into the future. So I would say, when I was talking earlier, I was saying like, okay, so the Siberia 1 game is going to be like shortly after, like maybe 50 years after the actual collapse of the civilization. Thousands. What do you mean, Gouda? So thousands of years. Like this is like a literal like 1,000-year, multi-thousand-year reign, like the Holy Roman Empire type of civilization. Is that what you're thinking? Let me know, because I really I don't know the answer to this. Thousands of years. We're talking. Okay, so we're talking. It's 83,700. Are we pushing this out? Are we pushing this out 1,000 years? We push this out 4,000 years. 4,320. Horribly wrong. Okay, so what do you mean the first ever? The first ever what? First ever galactic empire, and it's done horribly wrong? I don't know. Let's see here. If I did 4,300, we need to go whoop 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 whoop. The year is 4319. Right? No. The year is 4,400. Here we go. Softer, hard sci-fi. Okay, fantastic. Fantastic. Well, let me think about that. So this is so I guess it's like a hard sci-fi because it's really this is a computer science fiction. So it's really, the idea is it's not science fiction about physics or whatever. It's a computer science fiction. So I guess it's a soft science fiction in that respect, but that's kind of a hard science in its own sense. But it's really like, I want the scienciness of it to be, I want things to be believable. I want things to make sense. I don't want things to be like, oh, so then a wizard appeared. There's no magic. There might be some like, there's yeah, there's not going to be like magic in the game. There's not going to be like superpowers or like the force. Um, it is mainly this is mainly like this to me. I really look at this like it's like a thought experiment on society and computing. You know, because one of the things that absolutely fascinates me about computers is and just like anything, even like the road networks is like the same thing like transportation is like you could do anything. Romance mentioned. I don't know. I haven't thought about romance. In fact, I really haven't even considered how I might put romance into this story. And I think that's a good bit. That's a really good bit of feedback because I don't really go to that, but I think a good story has to have that. I mean, I have to, but that's a good element of a good story to have a romantic element. So yeah, I appreciate you bringing that up. True characters need to fall in love. Yeah, like there's got to be a love story in this. It's decided. There's going to be a love story for sure. Has to be. A hard. I don't know if I would character. I don't know if I want to characterize like the whole story as like a romance, but I think that there has to be like romance. It is very much like a primarily where I'm going with it is it's a thought experiment about computing and like what is a different way that humanity might have um, approached it. Enemies to lovers. What do you mean? Enemies like enemies become lovers like they start off as enemies and then that's how that's where they can come from there. Lovers to enemies, reverse inverted. Hmm. I hope I'm understanding that right. This concept that we have these people who start off as enemies and then I don't know. I don't even have characters yet, y'all. I don't even have characters. I mean, I have some characters, but I don't really have them. Like, I don't even have headshots for them or nothing. I kind of like, because I mean, gosh, lover going from lover to enemy. A robot human. Oh, there we go. Now we're cooking with Crisco, y'all. Yo. So, okay. All right. So, like, all right. What if Siberia One's AI is the love interest? Vehicle plus human. I don't know. Maybe there's like a character that falls in love with the computer and the computer falls in love with the character and maybe the computer turns evil, right? Maybe the supercomputer turns this is just totally we're just ideaing right here, right? Um Maybe a computer turns evil and then it tries to destroy the earth, but then it falls in love with a human and that's why it changes its mind. Cortana. Xeno on Xeno. I don't know. Let me know. Should I go with that? Is that where I'm going with this? That's an interesting way to, and that's got to be something that can't be in the lore. That has to be something you discover in the game. Like you have to experience that in the game. Hold on. Should I? Oh, Alien Xeno. Okay, I got you. All right. I'm like Google. What's the Xeno? Okay. All right. I appreciate all these ideas, y'all, helping me turn this idea into a reality. AI lover concept. Yeah. Yeah, I think I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna at least try. I'm at least try to do that because there is this concept of like the AI has to go bad. And really, right now, actually, what's weird about it is that in this game, the AI is actually originally the AI was not meant to be like bad or good or whatever. But and I haven't got into this. Um, I haven't even brought this up, but there's this concept of the rogue creations, and so there's a guy who taps into the AI of Siberia One and is able to really use that to create his own sort of splinter empire. And he creates these creations which are these robots that are powered by AI. But some of them start to go bad and turn evil. And maybe you find out that those are controlled by the AI. They're actually the ones that are actually truly controlled by the AI and not by the human influence. And so maybe in a way, you start off as the player and you are fighting against these rogue creations that are AI powered robots. And you're working for a good guy who's the human who created the AI powered robots, but they turned against him and you're helping him to destroy those AI robots. But you find out that those robots are being controlled by like this Borg Queen character or whatever, you know. And so this Borg, I can't say Borg Queen because that's like copyright, but you know, like the AI is a female entity in the computer system, and you're this like, you know, as protagonist guy. And so you're fighting for the good guy against his rogue robot creations that you find out are controlled by the central AI. The central AI is evil. Now here's our evil element, right? And you as the main character in the game, the player character, I guess the main character is really the AI robot because it's the most involved character. Anyway, but as the player character in the game, you fight against this evil AI robot, and then it is your love. It is her falling in love with you. That is what causes the AI multiple love interests. Plot twist, you are a robot. Oh man. Oh man. Ugh. I don't know. I I feel like I almost had this coming together, and now, like, okay, I'm a robot. What? No, I can't be a robot. Um, or have multiple love interests. Honestly, just write a book. Yeah. Uh, I don't know. I don't think I can write a book. I think I gotta make this game. I'm like, I already got all these projects. I can't finish all these projects. I need to finish this project. I can't write a book. Oh man. I don't even know. Hold on. Let me go off screen and Google something real quick. Let me see. What is that? Uh yeah, okay. I'm glad I went off screen to Urban Dictionary. Hold on. I gotta Google this now too. Space Game, the novel. Turian C6. All right, all right, all right. Look. Here's another franchise I've never looked into. I'm learning. This is such a culturally, like enriching experience here, where I get to learn about all these fandoms that I've never gotten into before. So Garrus Valkyr, GV is a Turian. It's a great. Hey man, I know you're making this space game, but check it out. Check out this game about space. They did it like 20 years ago, and it's like way better than your game, bro. Like you don't even need to waste your time. It's already been done. That's where my head's at. Oh man, I'm like, what am I doing here making this space game? This is good. This is good though. Oh dear. Aris Vakarian is a Turian, formerly part of CSEC, Investigation Division. So what's the like? Is there like a romantic element with this Garrus guy? Let's see. Oh! I see it. Romance. Let's see here. All right. He becomes a potential romance for a female shepherd. Not a shepherd like a sheep herder shepherd, but That looks like is that like a, is that like an alien race in this? Is that really like a shepherd, shepherd, like, yeah, yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's what I was just thinking about. Like, like we're in like deep space, and like, shepherd is still like a really important, one of those occupations. His demeanor's awkward. If Shepard asks Garrus whether his behavior suggests he's uncomfortable with the idea, says he's just nervous. Okay. Shepard's sex. Yeah, it's a human last name. Like this, I probably named after this guy who was an astronaut, I would imagine. Alan Shepard. Bro, look at the wallpaper behind this guy, or wall decoration. Like, this picture is like so good. That haircut is great. I'm amazed. Yeah, so this is probably the inspiration for that, I would imagine. Or just a crazy coincidence. Yeah, I'm going to learn a lot streaming. 100%. Look at those eyes. Look how blue they are. They're like, you know what? Look at that. I see where they got the idea for their logo. What is going on here? No, 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 not their logo. This. Yeah. This earth with this blue like thing right here. Conspiracy theory alert, you guys. 100%. This logo is 100% inspired by this dude's eyeball. Without a doubt. 100%. I believe that this logo was inspired by this dude's eyeball, and his eyeball and his name inspired this character, and so on and so forth. And yeah, 100%. Okay, I'm getting sidetracked here. So please, nobody bring up CC Pizzini. I'll be done for here. Okay. Man, where am I with this? I gotta hit Control S. Save this. There's going to be a love interest, though. This is great. I'm learning a lot from y'all. I'm so thankful for y'all to come in here and teach me about Mass Effect love interests and Alan Shepard and getting on that Wikipedia. There needs to be a Wikipedia segment on the stream. There's no doubt about that. So, let's see here. There has to be a love element. I think I'm following. I'm tracking with that idea of the, you start off, I want to take both of those concepts into the romance. There's gonna be the bad guy and the good guy that are fighting are gonna be the ones that kind of have this or you got me, Gouda. The bad guy and the good girl, or vice versa. However it plays out, it's gonna be a romance in that respect. So, and then the other thing is this AI, it's like kind of thing, kind of cool, whatever, that's going to be perfect. Mass Effect and Star Trek. Yes. First, I have to play Mass Effect, read Dune, and thankfully not watch all the Star Treks. I already took care of that. That's going to be good here. Hot guy called Sephiroth. Is that name like copyrighted? That's got to be. Unless it's just a common name in Japan or something, I don't know. All right. Well, this one I'll take under consideration. Oh boy. Let's see here. Let me finish this. I got to finish this lore. Maybe at least just get it like okay, so Gouda, we were talking about timelines earlier. So thousands of years. Okay. Oh, it's Hebrew. Is that really true? I need a etymology summary. see here. Here is. So I'm gonna go ahead and do your thing. I'm gonna add thousands of years to this timeline, just to really. And then the empire lasted a long time, but that gives it an optimal amount of time to wreak havoc on the galaxy. Yeah, I'm gonna need to fact check on this Hebrew statement here. It sounds kind of like it could be Hebrew, but like, what does it mean? What's the deal with that? How long the empires really last? I mean, they can last a long time. Like here's one as a Holy Roman Empire lasted 1,000 years, I think, or 900 years, something like that. Yeah, something like that. Roman Empire. All right, I'll fact check you. All right, let's go. I was asking you to provide sources, sir. It's okay though. It's fine. I got you. How long did this empire last? Like 25 minutes? What's the deal with this? 27 BC, ununified. Yeah, a couple hundred years. You know what I mean? All right, hold on. Sephiroth name etymology. Hebrew and Kabbalah. Look at that. Fact checked. Conspiracy confirmed. 100%. This is real. It's real. Oh, man. Let's go here. 10 emanations in the Kabbalah. Uh-oh. All right. So, anyway. Yeah. How much did you guys bet he was wrong? Is there a bet that happened here? I don't know. Let's see here. Okay, so powered by Dr. Shades, Empire Groups, alien civilizations, blah blah blah. So we're gonna push this back 100. So if I'm gonna push the Empire's existence up to last like 2,000 years, which I think is a fair amount of time, we're gonna do. It's gotta be at least a couple hundred years after the collapse in order for us to get to the story of this game. So I'm gonna put it to like 4,534 or whatever. Mm-hmm. And then so I'm just gonna take this off. Well, this is. I want to leave some mystery to this. So, how did the empire fall? So, this idea I had. Let me know what y'all think about this idea. But, I had this idea that okay, how does the Siberian Empire actually collapse? Well, I had this thought that the Siberia 1 supercomputer would one day just stop responding to all requests and cause a just giant collapse of society. For a period of time, there's like a dark, it's like the outage, the great outage or whatever, you know what I mean? And I think that this is the point where the computer maybe not becomes sentient, but where the computer makes a decision to cut off humanity, to cut off organic life from being able to use it anymore. And but then it feels pity for us and our suffering and it turns itself back on or something like that. Maybe somebody turns it on, I don't know. So I'm going to leave some mystery to this here. And then I'm just going to put more info coming soon. I want to wrap this page up and kind of get it, kind of set it. Then I got to go to the the starting point of like when you get into the game, you start on command of Siberian ship 71, remnant of the fleet, a remnant of the Empire's fleet. I'm going to say here, the main character, Commander Gouda. I guess it's Captain Gouda now. Captain Gouda is in command of the Siberian ship 71, a remnant ship of the Empire's military fleet. Um, he is in contact with Antoine, the CEO of the Create platform, right? Antoine is the CEO of the Create platform who has a problem on his hands, right? The problem that he has on his hands, uh, Antoine's robotic creations, um, Antoine's, I guess it's like this guy basically it's basically like a major faction within the lore. I haven't really started talking about factions yet, and there's some context missing here. So there are factions in the world. So in my world map here, I don't know how to. Let me just open up MS Paint and kind of talk through this idea that I have for the world map, right? So imagine in the world map here, we have like in the very center of our map, we have basically Earth. Well, this is where the Siberia One supercomputer is, right? This is where it lives. If you remember from our lore we were talking about earlier, there's no such thing anymore as like really Earth. Earth is basically just this giant, like, just giant orb where there's nothing but the Siberia One supercomputer and nothing else, nothing whatsoever. And so there's not much territory nearby, but a large area surrounding Siberia 1 is going to be controlled by basically and protected by a very secure area, controlled and protected by like a robot army, um, like a robotic defense network, basically. So a really hardened area of the map. There's no way that you're going to really, without fighting, get to Siberia 1. Let's put trash on Earth. Oh yeah, like the place is completely desolate and wasteland. So that's basically like I don't know if it's like necessarily trash in my vision, but I'm thinking more like the Earth had become uninhabited, but more so because basically it became so dedicated towards being this computer and growing and growing and growing and needing more and more computational power, so that we just built this computer and just basically added more CPUs to it over time. Um, and To the point where the Earth just became so crowded with this computer that it became basically unlivable. And I suppose that there would be trash on it. You know, like there's probably like as people were getting pushed out, like this place probably got completely wrecked. So I would imagine, yeah, for sure, Earth. Really, in the lore, it's not really called Earth anymore. The whole planet just ends up being called Siberia One. And there's only like if you hear somebody say Earth, they're from like a really like arcane like cult of people, human historian type aficionados who know that Siberia 1 was once called Earth, is no longer Earth. 100% trash, like Wally, for sure. So, but anyway, and they're a cult of people who hate AI. Yeah, exactly. Those are the types of people who would really use terminology like Earth, you know, because they're invested in the identity of Earth. Maybe restoring a new Earth, you know, could be the kind of crazy stuff they talk about. No, I don't think that's off track. Actually, I think that's exactly on track. You know, this is great. So here's this kind of like, um, this is like our kind of like world here, Siberia One, and so this is kind of, and then this is the defense network all around. So you have like the robots and stuff, they're not going to let you in. And this, imagine this whole area is like our whole map, everything that you have around it. And so a very large section of the map, maybe like a quarter of everything, would be this faction that's known as Create. And Create is, it's based on a friend of mine's company in real life, and the character is based on him too. Um, and so this is, so he like, oh, he like runs half of the world here. But so he has this problem where in his world here there his rogue creations, right? So I have this idea for a faction, not really a faction, it's more like a race, that are called creations, which are basically robots that he created, that his company created. And his company is centered like way out in deep space on the Create platform, which is kind of like a play on words here. The cool part of Dune, they destroyed all computers at one point, and then they had certain people become these things called mentats. They acted as the computers. Almost like an actual computer, like what it was a job title back in the day before people started using electronic computers instead of human computers. That's pretty cool. Doing all the computing, you know, it's pretty amazing. So that's the connection, I think. That's a big connection, I think, to Dune is this idea of destroying all the computers, or like a society that hates. So who destroyed all the computers? Everybody? Like, was it like society wide? Like computers were destroyed? Like the government decided that they hated computers? Is that kind of what happened? Is that the right understanding? Um. So anyway, I'm gonna go back to this Create platform here. So this is the Create platform. It's like a space station in deep space where this is where all these creations get created, and so this guy, the main guy, um, the main guy Antoine, he's the CEO of Create. So this is a commercial organization that's basically like a hegemony kind of corporation, and really just like absolutely, what is it, he really like gains a lot of power because thing is Antoine has the secret. The secret is that Antoine's the only person that can actually tap into the AI within Siberia 1. Everybody else can submit requests to the supercomputer. That's fine, but only within the established API boundaries. So whatever Siberia 1 was designed to do by the Empire, you can call upon it to do those things in the future, but you can't directly use the AI. That was always something that only really the Emperor had control of, but basically this guy's got the password. He can use that. And so that's how he managed to amass all this power. But his problem is these rogue creations. So let me look at it. Rogue creations try to enslave Encanemy. Um, okay. Well, I'm gonna have to read up on Dune because I definitely want to take inspiration where I can, and I also don't want to make something that's too similar to something else if I can avoid it. So but yeah, so the thing about the rogue creations is they so the Create company created the creations to basically be like workforce robots, new robots. They're like the first generation of like new robots that really isn't just like left over from the old days. And so this corporation really becomes really powerful with the AI and with the technology even after the collapse. So it's like a faction in the collapse. Problem is the creations start going rogue. And if you notice, they're going rogue close to the Siberia 1 computer in the center of the galaxy. And so these guys are what you find out, and this is what I learned from y'all earlier. This is the key here. What you find out is that the rogue creations are going rogue because the create that created the creations, the creator that created the creations tapped into the AI to create the creations, but the AI has a mind of its own. The AI corrupted these creations and then is subverting them to actually work on. The closer they get to Siberia 1, the more likely they are to go rogue, and that's where they amass and have created their own faction. They're actually threatening to destroy everything. And that's what you have to do is like you have to go and you have to get to Siberia 1 in the game, and you have to try to prevent these rogue creations from disabling Siberia 1 again, and thus destroying the society again. What you find out is that these rogue creations have gone rogue because the supercomputer is controlling them, and they are actually like loyal to the computer and not to their creator, the human creator who created them. And there's the romance element of once you get there and you get involved with this AI, once you actually meet the real AI, which is in-game stuff, there's this romantic sort of relationship with the player, where when the AI comes to, I guess, love the player, sees that there is a value to humanity and that it's just confused or whatever. Oh man. Now this this idea, human main character should get AI mods to his body to get close to Siberia 1, and in the end loses his whole humanity and purpose. That's kind of like the opposite of where I was going. This is a totally different angle. I don't know which angle is better though, in your opinion. I'd like to know. I mean, because that's kind of like we were talking about earlier. The good guy goes to bad, the bad guy goes to good, right? So there's, or vice versa, right? So there's like this love interest. The good character turns evil, or the evil character turns good. And I guess in this paradigm, we're assuming AI is evil and humans are good, which is kind of one of those things of like, is good really, really? I don't know. It's kind of subjective. It's almost like when I was watching Star Wars Revenge of the Sith, and there's that scene where Mace Windu is about to kill Palpatine, and Anakin Skywalker's like, well, shouldn't he go to trial? And Mace Windu's like, he's too dangerous to be left alive. And Anakin's like, so like we're the good guys, like we're supposed to. Just the whole reason is that we don't just like decide on a whim what we're gonna do, and we're just gonna kill this guy because like he's a bad guy and all that. And it's just like Mace Windu's like, no, I should kill this guy, and Anakin's like, and just and it's in that moment, in that exact moment right there, I'm kind of like, yeah, honestly, like good guys, bad guys, whatever. But that I guess obviously there's a bad guys and good guys, but in that moment it's really just like the Jedi are like kind of hypocrites about this. It's like, you guys say you stand for order, you say you stand for principles and justice and democracy, but like you're just gonna execute this dude, so like that's what he would do because he's the bad guy, right? He would just execute you if he felt like you were the bad guy, but you feel like he's the bad guy. So you're just going to execute him? But that's none of my business. Anyway, Sith all the way. Oh no, bro. Oh, hey man, that's later in the movie. I made no comment about that at all. Oh man, you go there. She would go there. Yeah, so that's the context of the situation, right? The context is, yeah, the Sith ultimately kind of did a lot more messed up stuff. So Sleepy, what idea are you talking about? You talking about your human basically goes goes full like mod to get closer to Siberia 1 and lose. Okay, I mean, okay, the kid one, you talking about what kid one? What are we talking about? Oh no. Well, I think I was gonna go the Grand Theft Auto route with this game, and there are no kids in the game at all. I didn't even think about that. It's just easier to not have kids in the game so that you don't have to have a Anakin Skywalker situation in your game and get blamed for it. So I don't know. So I have like 75% of this whole map that basically is not figured out yet at all as far as factions. And that's what I'm really going to get into. That's probably going to be like the whole next episode of Squid's World. I mean, I'm making I'm making a lot of progress, but I'm thinking about the scope of everything and all my projects. There's going to be so many streams, be like so much to do. And I want to keep it interesting for everybody and not stay too much on just one topic over and over again. But I'm having a lot of fun with this too. And there's so much to flesh out. I'll just kind of show y'all what I was thinking as far as this go, because I have all these pages on the website for Space Game, and this is basically like the wiki for Space Game in a way. Not even the game. Like, I'm not even making the game. Like, I'm just trying to figure out what the game is about. Um, so let's see here. So I have these ideas for these factions. There might actually be some material here. This is really old stuff. So we have like factions and characters, and then control. And I have like a database I can use to populate this data and actually like build out kind of like a wiki, so I can like populate the database and it'll populate my page. So I did do that, and so that's cool. So like I came up with this idea right here. This has been so long since I wrote this, so I don't know. I might have to completely rethink this. So so this is obviously, I don't think, going to be true, because I think that the player is going to come into it aligned with create at this point. And I do think for right now, I'm gonna have to chew. I'm gonna have to like chew on this, but like I am thinking that the romance idea is a good idea, and that the idea of I do think that the idea of like your character getting AI modifications to get close to the computer and then loses its humanity and purpose in it is a good idea, and I don't think it's incompatible with the idea of the romance. But I'm gonna have to play with that and figure out what I can do, because that is good. Um, but yeah, I came up with this idea of the Republic of Squid, um, in deep space, peaceful, reclusive faction. Um, I don't know if that's going to be the players' faction, but I think that um, you know, there's different factions that have different relations with the supercomputer. That's for sure. So this create here, um, you know, this Antoine character is really want to be like somebody. The Antoine character is a guy who is really has one aspect is really has been able to capitalize on artificial intelligence, um, for economic purposes, and it's a huge core to that person's character. But also that they're a person that is like able and willing to do anything, and very confident and very capable person. And that's what I really want to build on that character there too. Main enemy are AI, hive mind, Borg like spacers united under destruct. You like that ADHD? What are you talking about? Gouda's comment. Um, but yeah, let's see. The main enemies are basically the rogue creations. But I don't think they're the only enemies. I think that they're kind of the main enemies. Oh, Squid. What is it about Squid? Um, just the name. I like the name. Me personally, like I think it's basically just a faction that's kind of more of a peaceful, quiet faction or whatever. I wanted to have different factions that had different relationships with the supercomputer. Like, for example, like these guys right here, the Null. They're those who refuse to associate with computation whatsoever. Their ideology spread like wildfire throughout the galaxy, but they're mostly ignored due to their nonviolent nature and tendency to produce large amounts. I'm probably going to rethink this, because I want them to be violent. I just feel like this should be a violent faction. The Null, they don't believe in computing. You can't compute me because I'm null. I'm nothing. I don't respond to your operations, bro. But they're not going to be nonviolent, and they're not going to produce any food. They're going to be eating all the food, and they're going to be killing everybody and causing all kinds of problems. And they're going to be like basically terrorists. Yeah, they want to destroy all computers, and by computers they mean computer devices and people who compute. They will nullify you, bro. Oh, I gotta fix this right now in the database, man. That is crazy. Let me get in here. This is gonna open the wrong thing here. Come on, slow computer program. Oh, no, it's good. Oh, do I even have the right database in here? Come on, stop. Databases, no, it's not platform, it's space game. Yeah, let me go in here. Let's database time. Oh, everything's messed up. Things are not working. Yeah, they're nullifying computation. So they want to nullify computers. They also want to nullify computers, as in people who compute. They will call you a computer as a slur. They do not like you because you compute. You scum. That's their opinion. That's their opinion about you, basically, man. All right, let's get in here. Characters, um, factions. Yeah, let's get into the factions data real quick. The null. The null are those who refuse to associate with computation. Their ideology has spread like wildfire throughout the galaxy. But their numbers are small. Skip all that nonsense. They are highly dangerous. And they hate computers, both the actual devices and those who use them. They hate computers, both the actual devices and those who use them, whom they call computers as a slur. And that should be enough there. I think I just hit save here, and that should save that data. So let's refresh this. There we go. There we go. The null. I think I'm going to stick with this one. That's a good one. So Siberia is an abstract concept. Let's see if this is a good idea. I don't know if it is. All of these factions, I haven't looked at them in months. I don't know if this is good or fits into our new story here. Siberia is an abstract concept of a faction. It comprises anyone who is loyal first and foremost to Siberia 1, the supercomputer that powers much of computers. They live underground throughout the galaxy and communicate with one another through encrypted channels within Siberia 1. Together, they conspire to alter the events of the galaxy in their favor, often to undermine the remnant and further their goal to one day secure physical control of the supercomputer. Okay, so this is an idea of a faction of people who are loyal to the computer itself, not loyal to the empire or loyal to the remnant. That's where the remnant comes in. And I'm going to pop over to the remnant real quick. The remnant. Okay, so the remnant, as they referred to by outsiders, still call themselves the Galactic Empire. So think, I'm thinking, what's it called? What is it? Like the Holy Roman Empire. They call themselves Romans, even though they're not Romans. Or maybe like the Byzantine Empire call themselves Romans, even though they're not like the real Romans or whatever. Or like whatever, they still call themselves the Galactic Empire. They still believe they're the Galactic Empire, but really they're kind of like a modern day resurrection of such. And so they're not really the true Galactic Empire, but they're like the hegemony in Star Sector. If you've ever played Star Sector, they kind of do the same thing where they really think that they're the inheritors of the empire that collapsed. And so they're still strong. So at some point, like on my map here, we need to have like kind of like a maybe like they have like a certain amount of area here that they do control surrounding Siberia 1. And this would be this would be the remnant. They're kind of hanging around here. The remnant. So that's kind of like their faction. I'm gonna go with a map raft. Save this to pictures. Oh, pictures. I need to make a new folder for space game. And yeah, there we go. Okay. And so there's that. There's those guys, and then like I said, we have the where are they? Siberia. Yeah, the Siberia. Okay, so they don't really have a. Yeah, those guys are not really. The Red Legion. Who are these guys? Well, this is kind of like a Roman obsessed faction. But the crazy thing about the Roman obsessed factions is I was gonna make these guys not humans. So they're gonna be some kind of like weird alien, like they're shrimps or something. Like there's some kind of like lobster crustacean alien. They're like Zoidbergs, basically. But they're these like crustacean alien dudes that like for some reason became obsessed with ancient Rome. And they're basically one of those like we reject technology factions. Um, and at this point, I think you kind of get to, maps where you kind of like you're just drawing like these guys live like over here, type of thing. And then we could call these yahoos the what are they called? The Red Legion. Maybe they're the Red Legion because they're lobsters. But anyway, I think I'm at kind of a stopping point here. I made some progress on this lore. I need to kind of digest this information. But I do want to say, if you're still in here, for y'all that have participated in this exercise of trying to build out the story, I really appreciate the feedback that y'all had, and really want to kind of think about this and sort of come into it next week on next episode, Squid's World episode 4. To kind of expand on this, to finish out maybe some faction thought processes, to start developing some characters, and things like that, and kind of get into that, and maybe do some work on the engine itself, do some work on the actual game to get that more playable. So that would be kind of where I would go with that. So yeah, definitely happy with the progress. Had a good time. Appreciate everybody for joining. But I think that's going to wrap it up for Squid's World episode 3.